Hello, hello, hello. Over the past few days, I've been looking at maze games in MAME. Because I was wondering really what makes a maze game. If you think about maze games, you tend to think about arcade games, older 80s games. Obviously, the likes of Pac-Man immediately come to mind as being a maze game. But where do you draw the line? What is considered a a maze game? Hey Ayoga, how are you doing? Thank you for joining in. And yeah, I'm starting quite early today, so I'm glad you managed to make it, because I think a lot of people are not going to be expecting such an early start. But yeah, I've been thinking about this for the last few days and kind of opened up catver.ini and started looking at like what's considered a maze game in there, because that's a file people use to categorize things in MAME, and we don't do categories in the main project because it's very subjective. It's very, a matter of opinion. And as much as anything, I noticed that when I was looking through the catver thing, because there are a lot of games in there that I'm going, this isn't a maze game. Why is this in the list? So I'm not going to cover all of those. I mean, I'll pull one example off the top of my head that's listed in there as maze/driving. And that is Paperboy. Now, I don't get any element of maze from Paperboy. You're driving in a straight line, it's on a controlled path, you can move left and right a bit, and you're dodging things. That's not a maze game. It's a life simulation, paper delivering game of its own, its own category, really. Trying to think, I get that it's probably quite hard to categorise, but I wouldn't put it under maze, and that kind of is one of the things I've been thinking about, because where would you put it? And how did somebody decide to put that under maze? To me, there's no maze element in that. This, on the other hand, is another one that I kind of I ask questions about. Now, Taito obviously considered this to be a maze game because it basically dedicates itself to all maze game fans in the attract mode. It's got a little thing if you leave it, and it will show. I'll probably show it on the screen in a minute if you didn't catch it during the pre-stream. I think it was slightly cut off the screen anyway. But yeah, so they definitely consider this to be a maze game. But what's the maze element? It's more of a platform game to me. I mean, maze. What does a maze need? Does a maze need narrow corridors? Do you have to be able to get lost in a maze? If you have to be able to get lost in a maze, then Pac-Man's not a maze game, because I don't think you can get lost in that maze. But then you've got different types of mazes. I mean, maybe Pac-Man is more equivalent to an ornamental maze, whereas some of the games are more like proper get lost in this place hedge mazes. So I don't know. That's one of the things we'll be looking at anyway over the course of this stream. Is going to be picking out a bunch of different games and seeing what elements they have that might be considered maze-like. For this one, yeah, the levels are kind of sprawling. There's different elements to them. Although for the most part, you're on a fairly set track. I mean, there's not too many places to go off the track. And the rides do kind of give you free movement around. And there are walls. You can see one place from another. You have to work out how to get there. Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, because although Pac-Man would be considered a maze game, and a lot of the things I'd be looking at are like Pac-Man, is it really? I mean, maybe there are more maze games that are actually considered platform games, like this. But then the only difference between this and some other Taito games is maybe that this scrolls. This is almost an evolution of something like Bubble Bobble. It's a platform game, but Bubble Bobble would definitely not be considered a maze game. Then again, as you say, Bubble Bobble doesn't have a start and end. This does, which kind of makes it maze. And as an end of level, not end of life. Many games have end of lives. I'm good at discovering those. Yes, the built-in Master System Snail game. That is on my list to look at. I'm not sure when I'll get to it, but after I've played this for a little bit, probably a credit or so. Oh yeah, we're going live, don't we? I always forget that. It's very small inside of a whale. You would have thought it would be bigger. But yeah, there are a couple like that are kind of more like paper maze, labyrinth type games. And I will be looking at those. There's also a lot of games with maze in the title, where I really don't think they're maze games. Marching Maze that we looked at a week or two ago. To me, that's not a maze game in any sense of the word. End of life. Yeah, I mean, most games do result in you dying, don't they? Except maybe driving games. There aren't many driving games where you die horrifically. You usually just run out of time and get screamed at angrily for not finishing a stage in time. So, I don't know. Was that just Outrun? Outrun is definitely not a maze game. There are some driving games that are maze games, technically. Maze of Flot we looked at briefly another day, where apparently you're just driving around robbing places in your car. I never found any deeper meaning in that game. That's got maze in the title, and it's probably a maze game. There's kind of maze-like layout. The Irritating Maze, yes, that is also on the list to look at. Is that more irritating than it is mazy, or is it both? That's kind of based on your traditional sort of fun fair attraction, isn't it? Where you've got the moving the ring along the electrified poles. That's turned into a game, and yeah, that's a kind of maze. Although again, you can't really get lost in it. It's got a few routes through it, but you can't really get lost in it. But yeah, this was New Zealand Story, which I'll forward. Fast forward the attract mode a little bit. And there you go. This game will be dedicated to all maze game fans. So yeah, Taito considered this clearly to be some kind of maze game. I don't know. It's got maze-like elements, but if you're talking arcade maze games, maybe the ones we think most of us maze games, as you say, as main fan, Pac-Man and the like, maybe they're not so maze-like, but we're going to be looking at all of them. Not all of them, because there's probably not time unless I do multiple streams, which I might do, but we'll see where things go. So, A-Mame does also have Amazing Maze. 1976 Midway. Now, this is quite an early game. Targ. I thought Targ was more overhead than platformy, if it's the one I'm thinking of. It's the one a bit like Head On. I think it's kind of mazy. I mean, Route 16 is kind of mazy. Anyway, this is the Amazing Maze game, which doesn't really tell you much apart from it's being called the Amazing Maze game, and you get 3 mazes per game. But it is a very early 76 game. Play as long as you win. So you see, this is your traditional maze game. It's also quite loud. I'm going to turn it down slightly. I think this has got discrete sound, so the sound changes depending on which direction you press, but it only changes after the previous sound ends, so it's not always clear that it's connected to your direction, but it is. And the idea is to beat the computer who's going from one end to the other to get to the other end yourself. So this is really, this is your traditional maze. This is the type of maze you have on paper in children's books, and for an early arcade game, I guess this is alright. It's an electronic version of it, isn't it? So let's try and beat the computer. You can always have a look at where the computer's going as well to try and get an idea of the path you're going to have to take, because the computer usually takes the most direct route, just a bit more slowly than you can move. Kadash. Yeah, that was one of the other genres, really, isn't it? It's more of an RPG. And yes, you can get lost in it. There are multiple paths to take. But I think once you're dealing with a world like that, maybe not. I've gone the wrong way. I'm not doing very well. I've completely taken the wrong route here. There we go. Player losers. Now, do I get another maze? No, I don't get another maze because that was that. This is the Amazing Game. So this is a very simple maze game. Is there much more to show from this? Probably not. I mean, this is the entire game. It just creates random mazes for you, and you have to navigate them. So, yeah. They're always different. I mean, look, I've gone I've gone the wrong way already. They're always different. So the game's kind of got infinite replayability, and for a game from the mid-70s, it's also single player. The mid-70s arcade games actually required 2 players, which really limits the ability to show a lot of those off on stream. But this one was actually for a single player. So if you had an arcade and you wanted people to be able to play on their own in the 70s, this is one of your options. But yeah, Kadash, I don't consider Kadash to be a maze game, although I would consider Gauntlet to be, and then Gauntlet's sort of pre-early RPG, isn't it? But it has all the different mazes with the different exits, and the actual level layout and the layout of the levels is a maze as well as the actual levels themselves. But a world can be a maze, but I wouldn't maybe consider Kadash to be quite that. But yeah, that was that one anyway. That was Amazing Maze. Now, the same concept can be taken and I believe turned into, this is one that's on Konami's ping pong card, by the way, Merlin's Money Maze by Zilec-Zenitone. Now this needs my orientation changing, doesn't it? But okay, there we go. So this says cash pot, you see. So I think this one is actually an early sort of skill-based gambling game where you're actually winning prizes. You see, if you succeed, you will win the cash pot of 20p. This is from '86. So this is really the same type of game as the previous one, but you can see how aggressive the computer is there, though. The game, it's one of those skill-based gambling games where if it doesn't want to pay out, it is going to make the computer go absolutely as fast as possible and as direct as possible and get to the exit before you even had a chance to plan your route. I mean, look. This is how they get you. I mean, technically this is skill-based. If you were to do everything perfectly, you would win the prize. But, you know, who is actually going to do everything perfectly? Especially when the controls are a little bit floaty. I mean, it's a maze game. Typically with these things, the more money they've taken in, the more likely they are to pay out, so they'll make it easier the more coins have gone in. So once there's an actual jackpot amount being entered into the system, you're much more likely to be able to win it. But look, just the rate the computer goes. The computer does not slow down. So it's skill-based, kind of. I mean, if it wants to win, it will win. It will win every time. You know, that's just how these things work. I think some of these dip switches that are unknown probably control the percentage payout, so you know how often it's going to pay out, even though they're not listed as such. But yeah, this is one of those UK machines, and obviously this type of skill-based gambling game was really popular in the UK. There are loads of companies doing them, and this is just one of them. And I didn't know there'd be any in Vegas main fan. That just surprised me. I thought the Vegas ones would all be completely rigged. Obviously these are kind of rigged, aren't they? I mean, there's no way I was completing that maze. No way at all. But anyway. Yeah, so let's go with another one a bit like that was mentioned. Now, this one. I think I can use this BIOS. Oh, okay. No, okay, I can't do that one right now. Hold on. What do I do? Okay, right. Apparently, I am missing a file to run the latest version. So, yes, let's just. Well, this is the wrong version, isn't it? I can't do it on this version. Which BIOS do I need to actually do the snail maze? This one. There we go. The secret BIOS Snail maze on the Master System. So it's really just what we were looking at again, with a jolly little tune. Is this the right way? This is a very quick snail. It's a proper little maze, it's a proper little labyrinth. And yeah, here we go. You can't see the game. Okay. Right. That's odd. Yeah, I think I know why. Sorry. Let me fix that. I think it's because I renamed the executable. And it's not looking for the window name, it's looking for the executable name. I forgot that. Okay. So, yeah, okay. Now you can see the video signal. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that it's tied to the executable name, and I temporarily switched to a different executable in a different folder. Because I realised that I'd synced up the latest sound changes and not synced up to the latest ROMs, and I couldn't run it. So this is a dead end. Yeah, we're going the wrong way. But this is Snail Maze for the Master System, and again, it's the same type of thing. Go from one end to the other end, and don't get stuck. There's a time limit. In fact, it's the same maze as last time. I don't know why I'm doing it worse than I did last time. So yeah, this is built into the BIOS of the Master System. You hold down both buttons and up to get it. Not every model has it, but you know, the basic models do have it. So yeah, anyway, thank you for pointing that out. Anyway, it does happen from time to time. But yes, I should have prepared a bit earlier and updated a few files that I obviously didn't update. I thought I had done, but I clearly didn't, and now I'm streaming, so I can't really look around and see what I've done wrong. I might have just copied something into the wrong folder. Right. So here we go. Didn't want it harder. The snail is not fast enough. No. That's like Outrun when you're just coming up to the end and you get a time up. But there you go. This is Snail Maze. So yeah. Anyway, I think we can switch to another game now. I'm just going to have to remember to put that back. Right, okay, so, I mean, I guess we can't really not play the classic Pac-Man, can we? Although I'm not going to play the classic Pac-Man. I'm going to play Pac-Man bootleg on World Cup 90 hardware. This was made at a time when World Cup 90 boards were kind of very, very common. You know, you could buy about $5, $20 or something like that. People were trying to get rid of them. Nobody wanted them. Nobody liked them. So Mike Coates, who is actually a main dev member at the time, I think he might still be actually, ended up creating this for a little bit of fun. And then it ended up being put on boards and sold on all sorts of boards. So yeah, this is Pac-Man running on World Cup 90 hardware. Now, it sounds kind of off because it was created a long time ago, and MAME's sound emulation in Pac-Man wasn't great at the time. And I think it was done by sampling MAME and then converting those to ADPCM samples for the hardware, because the hardware doesn't have the Namco sound system. Obviously, it just plays back. It's got its YM chips, which. No, you're 2608 there. Videos are 2 of the skill-based gambling. Which ones did you play, main fan? So yeah, this is I mean, this plays like Pac-Man. It's slightly, a few of the visual elements have moved around slightly to accommodate the slightly different resolution the hardware has. And like I said, it doesn't sound great, but people were converting on, World Cup 90 boards to this and selling them, which is how it ended up in MAME. Even though it was actually just, I think, made for a bit of fun. But sometimes you do something for a bit of fun, and it ends up that happening to it. Now, I'm also really bad at Pac-Man. I noticed the death sound is especially bad there, but again, I'm pretty sure that's just how it is on the hardware. Alright, Into the Dead. Okay, so the actual ones you played in Vegas then, not ones that you played in MAME from Vegas. Okay. But yeah, I mean, over here in the UK, they're everywhere. If you go into any so-called arcade these days, 99% of the games are that or mobile ports, just on a big screen. It's not great. It's just how they've gone. I mean, I guess it's just more profitable. And the arcades aren't going to survive if they're not making money. The manufacturers aren't going to survive trying to make big, expensive, high-profile games. So they just go for sort of cheap redemption games, skill-based games that are basically gambling games. Anyway, a bit of Pac-Man. There you go, you've got your cutscenes too. So, yeah, I mean, the whole game is here in this conversion to World Cup 90 hardware. And this is, if you say arcade maze game, people will immediately come up and say, oh yeah, Pac-Man. Pac-Man's an arcade maze game. Thank you, Santori. I will put that towards some drinks. I didn't actually have any drinks last night. Oh, that was harsh. But yeah, I will definitely put that towards some drinks. Thank you. Always appreciated. They help keep the streams going. I think I might have to grab a can of Coke from over there in a little bit or something, because I've realised in my poor preparation for the stream, I've not even got a drink by my side right now. Terrible. But you've reminded me, and I also say thank you again, as you've done before. Thank you for the donation for the drinks money. But yeah, Pac-Man. I mean, it is more of a hedge maze, an ornamental hedge maze than a real maze. You can't get lost in it. It does have narrow. Thank you also, Ryan. That's definitely going to add to the drinks fun there. I might be able to get myself a nice bottle of something as well, or some cans. I don't know, but we'll see. But thank you again, and as before when you've donated, it's always appreciated. They're very rare to see ones that pay money in the US. Is it, MAME fan? Okay. I don't really know that much about the US market in terms of those things. I only know what I've really seen in MAME. I've not been to the US or any US casinos. I don't think you really have what we consider to be the fruit machines there either, do you? I mean, they're more pure gambling. But I've noticed when I do upload videos of all the light up fruit machines rather than just traditional slot things, a lot of the commenters from the US seeing like some kind of alien technology, which is always strange because they're so common here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we've seen Pac-Man. Everybody knows Pac-Man. It is the go-to. This is a maze game, even though maybe you could argue it's not a maze game. But we'll be covering more like that. Now, I'm going to go home computer time, so prepare your ears. There's going to be some loading noises. The good old Spectrum. Luckily it doesn't seem like it's too loud. Now this is Fred. Yes, Fred. Now, this was also known on the Amstrad as Roland in the Ropes, but why not just go with the Spectrum version if it works properly? Right, I've loaded the Spanish version. Okay, these might be incorrect controls. Now this, I've correctly defined the controls without knowing any Spanish. There you go. Fred the Mummy. Well, there are mummies in this game, if I get that far. But this, for me, is one of the traditional home computer maze games. This is, you're stuck in a pyramid and you've got to get to the top and find the exit. So this is really, you know, it fits all the criteria for a traditional maze, but with fancier graphics. And the mazes are randomised as well on this, so it's different every time you play it. Revision demo party is on. Okay, I'll have to check that out then. What systems are they targeting? Any or specific ones? Anyway, yep. So you know this is all right. I mean, this is a game I played a lot of. Look, I've ended up at dead end there, so it looks like there's no way out of the maze where I've gone. So I'm probably going to have to backtrack everywhere. Why is it censoring your comment? Hold on. There we go. I don't know why it was censoring a comment saying PC, but it was. Oh, no way down there. And obviously they've got all these ghosts chasing you, and yeah, in later levels there are mummies that fall down. And you do have a gun, you can shoot things, but it just usually changes their direction or temporarily makes them vanish. People were used to this scrolling. This is how the Spectrum scrolled. I mean, it shows the age of the game, really, doesn't it? It scrolls in blocks, and it is a bit rough with lots of tearing, but that is how it looks. That's not an emulation problem. That is just how the game looks. If anything, the CPC version is even rougher, which is one reason I loaded up the Spectrum version here. Although it's a very unfair game, you can lose your health very, very quickly, and this route leads to nowhere too. Oh dear, oh dear, dear, dear. So yeah, there's probably one real route through this maze, and I've not found it yet. But I will try and complete the first level. I won't blame you if you want to pop off and watch that instead. Then I wasn't aware that was going on, but yeah, that does actually sound really interesting. But, am I going to get out of this maze or am I not? This is a question. Now you can get a map if you find the map object, but again, the map object is anywhere in the maze. Okay, it looks like I made the right choice by not going down the bottom path, because it looks like that just ended up going nowhere. But, this is probably the right path to be on. Although I might not make it out because I might die first. So I quite like this. I mean, it's a really early game. It's mid-80s one, isn't it, for the Spectrum? It's one of the earlier titles I had when I first got the Spectrum. And there weren't that many games I can think of that had fully randomised levels. And this is memorable for that, at least to me. But this thing is going to kill me and I'm not going to get out of this maze. Yep, that's what I thought would happen. Oh dear. Yeah, there's quite a lot of tearing in this. It's just how it is. Anyway. Well, I did better than the 3 other Freds who scored nothing because they didn't really play the game. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see me escape from the maze. But that's how it goes sometimes, isn't it? But yeah, that was a bit of Fred. Quite like a bit of Fred. Right, now the next one I'm going to look at is actually a much newer thing that's not technically in the MAME soft lists, but the ROM is about and you can add it. Now, this is Pac-Man Championship Edition Demake. No, that's not just Pac-Man. I want the Championship Edition Pac-Man. Pac-Man Championship Edition for the NES. Now, this was originally, a console game, but if you bought the bundle, you did get this the NES version included. And it's a remake of the game, or demake of the game, to NES hardware. It uses one of the Namco mappers from back in the day to give Namco-like sound, but so it's not really authentic sounding NES sound, but you could have this sound back in the day because some of the Namco cartridges did use it, so it is authentic NES hardware, just maybe not the sound you're used to. So, what did they do when they were porting this to the NES? Well, I think they did a really good job. I mean, they've even got achievements and everything else in here. So they've included, the key features from the console game. The modern console game would put it on the NES. Now, it's a sort of 5-minute time challenge thing, score challenge thing, even, where you've got to go against the clock to get as many points as possible. And as you collect the fruit, more elements of the maze open up. And I'm just really impressed by this, actually, especially considering it is on the NES. And it gets really quite intense too. I mean, I'm nowhere near as good at this as some of the players I've seen. But if you've not seen this, or weren't aware of it, then yeah, I do suggest maybe tracking it down and having a look at it. I only found out about it because some other streamers were playing it for a competition. Bug in the letters. I've not seen any bug in the letters. Oh, I've got Eden. Every time you eat a fruit, it expands a bit more the maze. This is probably the worst I've done at this, and it gets faster and faster. And after 5 minutes, it will give you a rating and a score. You'll know your final score. It'll show you how you managed to achieve your final score. But had this come out on the NES back in the day, I think people would have been really, really impressed by it. I mean, I'm impressed by it now, and it's many, many years later. So I would have struggled to believe this was running on a NES at the time, I think. But, yeah. Now it's got if you're grinding against the side, it does have a little effect on the Pac-Man, so you can see you're pushing in a certain direction. Then I'm pushing up. That's a nice little touch. The original Pac-Man games didn't have that. There we go. Now the whole point is to try and clear things out as quickly as possible. Try and group up the ghosts and eat them when you can. And there are scoring strategies. I'm not aware of them. You seem to get plenty of extra lives, which kind of comes in handy if you start to do really badly and lose them. I think maybe a lot of people haven't seen this because it's a newish thing, but they did take the time to demake it for the NES, so they clearly intended for people to be playing it on some kind of emulator. So I don't feel too bad about showing this one. It probably won't get added to the software list for a good few years officially, but if you do own it, then you can play it. Look how fast the ghosts are now. They are absolutely turbocharged. It's got a very intense piece of music that just keeps getting faster and faster along with the game. So it makes it quite clear that you're not meant to be relaxing or taking a break while you're playing this. You're meant to be going around doing things as quickly as possible. In fact, coffee will help do things a bit more quickly. Well, it doesn't, but if it was real coffee, it would. I'm not going to get that in time. There we go. So 1 minute and 35 seconds left. Nowhere near any good scoring on this. I mean, the top players have got far, far, far higher scores already. But yeah. Would anybody have bought this on the NES had it come out back in the day like this? I'm going to say if I had a NES and I was aware of it, I would have done. Even if it is just a score challenge game, a time score challenge, it's incredibly addictive. I spent too long playing this rather than preparing for the stream, in fact. And deaths cost you your time. I think it kills your bonus multiplier too, because now we're back to 10 points each on the dots. So you really don't want to die. It's terrible for your score. Also, it's terrible for your life. You know, it was a general life tip: don't die. But yeah, I mean, this is really a modern take on the Pac-Man maze game genre. Is it more or less of a maze game than Pac-Man? It's sort of an infinite maze that scrolls and creates new dots all the time. It's definitely different. It's definitely one of my favourite Pac-Man sequels. Oh, so close to the diamond. Didn't get there in time. Anyway, there we go, you see. I got a very poor score of 241,000. That's the breakdown of when you got your points. So you can see the points I got from the dots, the points I got from the fruit, the points I got from the ghosts. Hey T Lannis. So, yeah, thank you for dropping by, even if you've got to head off to work soon. But yeah. Yeah, this is a very nice looking game. It saves your scores too. The cartridge has backup memory set up, so you know it'll do that, and it'll give you achievements, and it will save those too. So it's like a proper modern game on an old platform. It's even got a replay mode, so you can replay the last run you did if you want to watch it back over again, which is again is a really good feature. You can view your achievements. Yeah, I don't want to spend too long on that, but yeah. I didn't realise it was the Pac and Pal music actually, because I've never spent that much time on Pac and Pal. But yeah, that's a nice touch too if they've done that. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. And it's always good to see new software for older platforms, and that's official software. Now, somebody mentioned Targ, didn't they? Exidy. Exidy have got a lot of games that are kind of like this. I noticed lots of sort of semi-maze games. So let's have a look at Targ. Now, there's a lot of Exidy games free on mamedev.org for non-commercial use. I think this is probably one of them. I've not checked. But again, you're navigating, in this case, more of a grid than a maze, maybe. But again, if you showed this to be somebody, they'd probably say, yeah, maze game. Now, you can't turn back on yourself easily. You have to slow down, and that's where the challenge comes from, really. Because if you're going full speed, you have to slow down and then turn around. Which means you can't just shoot something behind you quickly. You have to try and get to it another way, or get enough distance, then turn back on it. So there's a challenge from that. There we go. That's a very loud buzz at the end of the level. It's not the most creative maze. I mean, to me, a maze requires maybe a bit more design than this, but it is a game that I think people would classify as a maze game. So it's in catver.ini as a maze game. So, you know, I'll count it. I mean, there's definitely some errors in catver.ini. Aside from Paperboy being in there intentionally, I noticed one of the recently added alligator hunt sets was in there, and that is definitely not a maze game at all. There's also some strange inconsistencies. I think Pushman, the adult versions, the Command versions, are in maze game, and the Sammy version is under puzzle games, even though they're the same game, just without adult content. And then there's a few gambling games in there where I don't think somebody's played them, because they're definitely not maze games. But, you know, that is just one of the things I noticed while looking at it. But as I say, it's one of the reasons we don't have an official system of categorizing games, because too many people have different opinions. The things that I'm just looking at, I'm thinking there's no way that's a maze game, where maybe other people are happy to consider it a maze game. And most of these, I really don't know what to think of. Yeah, I could pick up the obvious ones, but then there's a lot that aren't obvious. But yeah, this is I don't know, I've never really enjoyed this one that much. kind of a fairly dull game, if you ask me. I think Exidy have far better games, and the collision's not good on this at all. You die when you come close to things rather than actually touching them. So I'm going to say I don't really want to play that too much. It's kind of just about what you consider to be an arcade maze game, isn't it? So what else was in here? That one. I think it's a vertical. If it's not, I'll have to change that back. Now, Kamikazi Cabbie, also known as Yellow Cab, is an 84 game from Data East. Now, you've got a city. You know, you go to the taxi stop. Somebody tells you where they want to go right, 16 and up to. I'll try and get them there. Now, keep in mind, this came out a long time before Crazy Taxi or anything like that. But the actual city itself, I guess, could be considered a maze. Hey, old guy Soul, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. I'm just looking at some maze games. Well, some games that are in catver.ini as maze games. This one is in catver.ini as a maze game. And I kind of get that. You've got different passages, which are the roads. You've got to get from A to B. You've got to avoid stuff. But if this is a maze game, that would also technically make Crazy Taxi a maze game. Are we happy with saying Crazy Taxi is a maze game? I don't know. Maybe it is. I mean, you are kind of trying to always find the best route from one place to another in a fixed environment, which could be considered a maze, even though it's a city. So maybe Crazy Taxi is a maze game too? Maybe Grand Theft Auto is a maze game at times? Especially the original, where you don't have any kind of on-screen map. So you do kind of have to memorise everything and remember where all your shortcuts are. But these are things that people have mentioned to me when I said I was going to look at maze games. You know, people maybe jokingly said something like GTA, but then... yeah, the elements. Yeah, the overhead view, maybe that's part of it. But then, you know, I can start to look at some games in a minute that are definitely not overhead. I don't know what I'm entering as high score names, I'm just entering any random letters. But let's have another little credit of this. Now, at least with this game, I know what I'm doing. There's another taxi game in Maine, just called Taxi Driver, where I can't figure out what I'm meant to do at all. I can pick somebody up, but I don't know where they want taking. I mean, this has got a nice on-screen display that says, go that way. I know where they've got to go. Get some more fuel, you know. Ooh, yeah, let's go a bit faster. But yeah, that is what I mean. That's the key difference, isn't it, between this and Crazy Taxi? Is that this is overhead-ish, sort of side-on overhead. But that's just how the sprites are drawn. It really plays like an overhead game. It does tell you at the top the direction you've got to go, so it helps you a little bit. But you've still got to navigate it. Yeah, I think this is quite a good game, actually. It's not one I played much. And the controls are a little bit slippy. But, you know, it shows that there were Crazy Taxi games a long time before Crazy Taxi. Refuel. No, where is somebody to pick up? Oh, there we go, I can pick you up. That way 40. Can't pick up more than one person, can I? No, you can only pick up one person at a time. I definitely need to refuel. That wasn't much fuel. Refuel here. Come on, I'm gonna refuel. I can't refuel. Apparently I've refueled enough. Fuel empty. Yeah, I know. Don't run away. Anyway. This is still pretty crazy though. Nobody can drive. Especially not me. There's gas there. That could have done that earlier. Don't crash into trains. Still have to look for the passenger. Oh well. Yeah. Oh yeah, GTA 1 and 2 feel a lot more mazy because they're overhead. Yes, that is true. That's probably another reason why, if I think about GTA 1 and 2, they are more maze games. The complete lack of a map as well, in those cases, probably contributes. I mean, there are other driving games that are clearly mazy. I think everybody would agree that Rally X is probably more of a maze game than Pac-Man. You do have a radar on this though, and I've just said that GTA felt more mazy because it didn't have a radar. But the map here doesn't show you the roads, so I guess that is potentially a key difference as well. This is actually not such a difficult game, I'm just making it look hard. So, yeah. Now, you know where the flags are from the map, but you don't know where the what the road layout looks like. I'm used to playing the plug-and-play version of this rather than the real version. It feels a bit off now. I've played the plug-and-play so much. But yeah, this is definitely more mazy. I think the scrolling helps because you can't see everything at the same time. And it's not just symmetrical. The thing with Pac-Man is, you know, it's a maze that mirrors itself. It's not very mazy. You can't get lost in it. So, I'm sure most people are quite familiar with Rally X. It is one of those absolute classic Namco games. You know, one that Namco definitely regard as a classic. Although for some reason, with the plug and plays, the Rally X on the later JAKKS ones was only on the game key, which is very strange. There was new Rally X on many of the units built in, but they kind of did Rally X on the original Namco unit, which was a very rough port. Did a version on the later Sunplus hardware, but that Sunplus version is only on the game key. I don't really know why, because I think I'd like it a bit better than the new Rally X version that is on the base units. But maybe there was some issue where Namco thought that, you know, didn't give them permission to do Rally X, only new Rally X, and I don't know, licensing in these games is always messy, isn't it? So you can only start to guess why it might have been. Anyway, yeah. So I think we've seen Rally X. So the colours change; it gets more difficult. I'm just going to stay on the same subject. This is one I emulated a few years back, 96 Flag Rally. It's basically a Korean Rally X with lots of stolen graphics. Different types of car. Just be that one. Now this one does not have adult images, best I can tell. It has images between levels, but they are all family-friendly ones. They're just sort of, you know, they're acceptable ones. I imagine there are versions of the game out there with less acceptable images, because that tends to be how these Korean games go. But the dumped one is perfectly acceptable. Now you'll see all the graphics are stolen from things like, you know, SimCity. The background tiles, and even in this case, they've just zoomed one up rather than redrawn it. It's about as Korean as you can get, but it is still Rally X, and it's actually really well presented, and it plays really well. You know, I had a blast with this one when I added it. You don't expect these Korean knockoff games to play well, I mean, it's not the only time Korea did a Rally X knockoff. There's a Pang car as well, although that one does have adult pictures between the levels and runs quite slowly and doesn't have sound emulation. But you see, at the end of the level, they've even got this challenge to go and get the diamond for extra points. You got your score table. These are the images you get. Just, you know, not too naughty. Just beach shots. So, you know, it's perfectly safe and a decent modern Rally X clone that's definitely a maze game. And since it was emulated in the last few years, I thought, you know, I'd put it on here because it might be one people who have only used older versions of MAME haven't seen. I think I uploaded a video at the time when I emulated it, but it runs on the same hardware as 1945 K3, which is a Korean sort of Strikers type knockoff, also known as Solite Spirits. Yeah, okay. Get both the diamonds. There we go. Yeah, but I definitely recommend giving this one a try if you like Rally X. It's just a more modern version of it from Korea. Obviously not licensed by Namco in any way whatsoever. I'm not going to play it for too long. There you go, though. Okay, so yeah, I was saying not all of them are going to be in 2D. This one was recommended to me on Twitter. This is Tunnel Runner for the Atari VCS, the 2600. So, creates a maze with lots of very computery sounds. Now it's 2D at the moment, then it sticks you in the maze, and suddenly you're in a maze, and yep, you've got to fight. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? I think I pressed the wrong button there. So I'm not quite used to the. How do I get the map up? You've got to get to the exit of the maze and not hit that thing, because that's the you know, that's what's chasing you. So, no, yeah, okay, the fire button tells you the maze. So where am I? And there. Turned around. Okay, now I'm going forward. So yeah, you've got to find the key and get to the exit, and you're being pursued the whole time. But this is definitely a maze game. Yeah, it's very impressive for the 2600. I didn't realise it could do this either. Right, the key is above me, so I've turned that way. That's the key. It's just a little dot on the floor, but it's yeah, and it's good use of the colours as well. You've got the different coloured floors, the rainbow effect. Right, that's a trick door, because that door's not on the map. If I go through that door, it boots me back to the start of the level. But the real exit, which is shown on the map, is here. There we go. Now it goes back to a different maze. Creates the maze. Where am I going? Okay, the monster is right next to the key. Let's try and get the key before, without seeing the monster. There's the monster. Now I think MAME does actually blend the frames on the Atari 2600 driver for some reason, which really it shouldn't these days, because the post-processing should do that. Now, if you move in a straight line, you start to go faster and faster. Except I've overshot there, and so that's not the real exit. An extra 256 bytes of RAM still isn't much RAM though, is it? when you consider everything, all things considered. So it's still impressive they've managed to pull this off. And I was, you know, when this was recommended on Twitter and I tried it out, I was very impressed by what this was doing. Like you said, I didn't expect the 2600 to do this. I see exit. Now, I'm sure you're not meant to be checking the maze, the map the whole time. There's probably a penalty for doing that. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yes, very, very impressive, I would say. An absolutely amazing game. I mean, there aren't really many 3D arcade maze games. There were 3D games in the arcades, but none of them seem especially maze-like to me. I mean, there's things like Last Survivor, the Sega game. Kind of maybe maze, has maze elements to it, but I definitely struggle to call it a maze game. Then if you look at earlier first-person games, though, they're much more mazy than they are today. I mean, the original Wolfenstein, I would say, was a lot more of a maze game than any modern first-person shooter, because most of the modern first-person shooters just really have you following a set path. They're more like on rails. It's not 3D. Does Cameltry count as a maze game? I think Cameltry counts as a maze game. I don't think Cameltry was listed as a maze game in catver.ini because it's not on my list, and I think I would have noticed that one. But yeah, one of the other discussions I had, yes, with people is Sonic. The Sonic bonus stages, which are very like Cameltry. You know, it was thought, yeah, they count as maze, more so than Labyrinth Zone. Labyrinth Zone does have one or two mazy elements, like the infinite loop part where you can fall forever, which kind of feels like something you find in a maze, and it is slower paced. But the special stages in Sonic are definitely more maze games than the rest of the game, and they are very like Cameltry. Happy Easter, Christian. Thank you for joining. Zybots. I wasn't planning on playing Zybots because it's one I'm not very experienced with playing, but yes, that I believe was on the list of maze games in catver. Actually, since you mentioned Cameltry, Ryan, let's put Cameltry on, because it's one that was not on my list. But yes, I would say this was a maze game. Interesting thing with Cameltry is the versions with different sound hardware, and for a long time the OKA sample ROM, 6295 sample ROM for one of them wasn't dumped, so it had kind of bad sound. But that it was eventually realised that where the chip was, and that was dumped. I don't think it was marked like most Taito ROMs or something, so it was easy to overlook. But yeah, Cameltry. Cameltry is a rotating maze. So, you know, you've got to start, and you've got to find the exit. You rotate the maze, you get the points. Now, if our Amiga emulation was better, I would probably go from this game to one of my favourites like this, which is Bob's Bad Day on the Amiga. But I don't think that's going to run in our Amiga emulation, unfortunately, so I won't do that. But if you have an Amiga emulator and you like this type of game, then be sure to check out Bob's Bad Day. It's got a rather silly intro too, like many Amiga games did. Yeah, I would say this was absolutely a maze game. And I'll have to double check catver. It's also very, very quiet, sorry. I don't know why this one is so quiet. Hold on. Let's put the volume right up. That's a bit better. So, it's very, very smooth. I mean, with this type of game, you've got your spinner controls, and it just silky smooth rotation. You couldn't ask for it to be executed any better than the Taito have executed it here, to be honest. Labyrinth game for the Odyssey 2. I was going to look at Munchkin, KC Munchkin for the Odyssey 2. Not necessarily Labyrinth game. But, I didn't check out Labyrinth game earlier, so I've only been coming up with a short list. I mean, I might have to do more streams like this because there's no way that I'm going to get through everything that I've got listed. I mean, I've already been going for an hour and I've knocked a fraction off the list. Although it's not the April theme, it's just a, you know, I want to do this as a, I want to do it as a one-off, but it's not going to be a one-off, is it? It's going to be a 1 or 2 stream thing, I think, maybe even 3. Yes. I don't know how I forgot this one actually, because I really like this game, but I guess it's because I was just looking through the list and I didn't see it on the lists, and it didn't come to mind. But some strange things did come to mind. I mean, I think some of the games I'm going to put on in a bit, I'm still questioning myself, are they maze games? Ooh, no, I've lost my rhythm here. So yeah, definitely play this. It plays absolutely fine on mouse. It's one of those games where we're lucky that mouse controls work perfectly for it. Around this racetrack. Ooh. And the other question, things like Bomberman, are they maze games? I think some of them got maze-like elements. Yeah, I mean, I did want to show some of the obvious ones off as well, and KC Munchkin is a good game, which really... I'm a little bit disappointed that the lawsuit there sided with Atari, because it's not actually that Pac-Man-like. It's got elements, but it's also... That was a bad start. It's also a very original game. It's got lots more to it than just being Pac-Man. I think maybe they advertised it as being like Pac-Man themselves, so they probably shot themselves in the foot though, didn't they? I'm not going to finish this track, that is certain. It's tricky when you need the momentum and the speed to really get through it, and I lost it. Is it a maze game? Leave a comment below. It's a very pinball-like mechanic, that, isn't it? Match the last number to get a bonus. Dead. I mean, I don't know how you call a ball dead, but it is dead. Hey, A-Mame-ing. I've spelled maze wrong, haven't I? Well, yeah, sort of, kind of. Oh yeah, the high score entry is like this. Yeah, Bomberman in multiplayer, but in single player you've got to find the exit and things like that, and that's kind of maze-like. So I'm not sure. Okay. Now somebody mentioned this earlier again. I think the colours there are just what it does when the battery memory isn't initialised. I imagine the video unit would do the same, but you're only going to see it once. Now I'm going to have to turn the sound right down here because I remember I turned it right up for the last game. And we know what happens when I do that. Right. As somebody said to me earlier on Discord, farming simulators are maze games, aren't they? I mean, it's a really bad joke, but I kind of appreciated it. And this is actually kind of like a maze game, as well as being a farming simulator. Oh, and I let go of the button too early. You have to hold the button while you're outlining stuff. But are these outline type games maze games? Because there's quite a lot of those as well. Amidar, Triple Punch. You know, are they maze games? This one, the idea is to circle the crops and grow the crops within the time limit of the day. Yeah, I wouldn't say KICKS was, because there's no structure. It's a blank playfield. There's a few like that, actually. Taito's Electric Yo-Yo is also listed as a maze game in catver. But I loaded it up, and the only layout seems to be the things you're picking up. This is one of the JAKKS specific plug and play units, by the way. Runs on Sun Plus hardware. Very well presented. All the good use of the Disney IP, really. I think. Don't trust the chicken; it hurts. Although I don't know why a chicken would hurt a tractor. You would have thought you could run over a chicken, but no, you can't run over a chicken. See, that's the thing. A lot of the things in catver are maze / something else. The chicken just kills you if you hit the chicken, so just avoid the chicken. We don't get into Peter Griffin style chicken fights or anything like that. And it doesn't destroy your path like you get in some of these games. But yeah, look, I'll go and run into the chicken. There you go. That's what it does. But yeah. You can beep at the chicken. The chicken doesn't care if you beep at the chicken, though. It just still gets you. In fact, the beep. I think the beep is entirely pointless. Oh, then maybe you scare the crows off later. Actually, I can't remember. But yeah, that's just a little plug and play thing. That it's not actually too bad. Are you creating a maze? I guess you can only go over the lines you've created yourself, can't you? So, in that sense, maybe you are creating a maze. It's one way to look at it. It's not one that was on the lists, so not one that I've come up with. But yeah, I can see the point there. Actually, I can see the point. Right, I believe the next one calls itself an amazing maze game. Heart Attack by Century Electronics. Century Electronics, who are really known for Hunchback and not much else. Yes, the amazing. This is with the E rather than my spelling without the E. The Amazing Heart Attack. I mean, I don't think heart attacks are generally considered to be amazing, but that's what the screen says. And also, it takes forever to draw this title logo because this is what Century were like. So there you go. It spent forever drawing that. Shall we just insert a coin? That classic Century coin insertion sound. It's almost Williams-like sounds now. In fact, this is very Williams-like sounds, isn't it? That's very Defender-like. So you control the little one at the top that's drawing the path. And yes, it's sort of reverse Pac-Man, isn't it? Just with tiny graphics. And you can block it off and that bounces the other direction and you pick that back up. I mean, if Pac-Man is a maze game, this is a maze game because it is just Pac-Man inverted with different rules of how it plays. Obviously, you've got this block feature. And you've also got a freeze feature that I'm not going to have to use on the first level. I think a lot of people don't like this because, well, the sprites are 4x4 pixels, if that. Maybe they're 3x3. It doesn't really have that scream, this is an arcade game, does it? It kind of screams this is a home computer game. But like a lot of the Century games did. And plus, because it's so small, there's so much ground to cover on each level. I mean, these ones are fairly simple, but you know, these tiny narrow passages mean the levels end up huge, and sometimes the dots are really hard to see. I mean, this one, the colour choice is awful. The font is nice. It's one of those standard fonts, isn't it? Also, the sounds are horrible. I'm sorry, but it's giving me a headache just playing it. And the AI is stupid. It's one of those games that needs to start off with the greater intensity than it does, because when you're starting off with slow levels like this, you sort of lose any interest in playing it any much longer. I said the same about Pac-Mania, although at least Pac-Mania does give you the option to start on the later stages. I just think it should have just started on the later stages. Although the Japanese version of Pac-Mania doesn't give you that, it doesn't have the level select that was added for the export versions. Oh yeah, you don't keep moving either, you have to hold down the movement, so... I had a look at Rally X a bit ago, Carlo. Boulder Dash? Yeah, Boulder Dash I would count. I wasn't looking at the screen. That was an over-the-top explosion. I don't know about the ESOD games, however you pronounce it. Actually, this tiny maze here makes this a lot more challenging. But still not that challenging. Boulder Dash, yeah, I should look at Boulder Dash. Now we're getting to the point where there's just too much to cover. But there are more enemies now. And this is a 5 or say, sorry. You've got to survive for 15 seconds. It does mix it up, sorry. But there are later stages where you have to clear far too much.
10, 9,
It's got uses of speech.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah, Century, not Century, Ryan. Why is the sound hardware part of the game pretty large? I don't know. I mean, it's got the speech chips on it and everything. But I think they were quite proud of the speech chip early on, even though they didn't really use it that much. But it was quite nice to have, you know, the spoken countdown there. Yeah, I think I've played enough of Heart Attack. You get the idea. It does mix things up a little bit with those survival stages, and it is definitely what I would consider to be a maze game. Boulder Dash. Yeah, why not? Why not a bit of Boulder Dash? Which version of Boulder Dash? Let's go with the Data East arcade version, which is called Boulder Dash or Boulder Dash Part 2, because strangely enough, there's a dip switch. Now, Boulder Dash Part 1. Okay. Boulder Dash Part 2. I don't know. It's just a title dip switch to switch between Boulder Dash and Boulder Dash Part 2. I don't know if there's any actual difference when you select it, but I mean, I wonder why they decided to put the amazing Heart Attack in the attract mode too, because it's not really the association people have with heart attacks, is it? Also, Berserk, yes. That is one I will be looking at, because I think that is a nice little maze game. Yeah, I don't know what to think of this Data East Boulder Dash game. It's obviously a lot better than any of the Kyle Hodgett's Boulder Dash games, which I did make a note of to maybe look at. But I think showing off the one that's actually decent, the only really decent arcade Boulder Dash game actually, because the others, I mean, there's the Deco cassette one that's just really slow. There's some home versions with timers on. But yeah, for some reason there aren't really proper arcade Boulder Dash games. I mean, there's supposedly a version of Rockford on the Amiga-based Arcadia system, but that's never been found or dumped. Probably doesn't even exist anymore. And you know, I've seen how good or not good, shall we say, the Arcadia games in general. So I don't really have high hopes that that's going to be anything other than another terrible arcade Boulder Dash game, even if it does show up. Because somehow they managed to make the Amiga look like one of the worst systems by just picking the worst games for that Arcadia hardware. Yeah, I mean, there's a few, Kyle. I play that Dark Tower. Is it Dark Tower? One of the Double Dragon conversions, and don't mind it. But it's definitely not a good game. You eventually move more into doing redemption things, or after doing some really ridiculously convoluted hardware setups that haven't yet been emulated. I think the closest we got to emulating those really, really ridiculous hardware setups is Lucas Driver for Schemax. But then I think he did that some sort of virtual fighter thing, not Virtua Fighter. Can't remember the title of it. So I suppose people actually asking when Egg Venture will be emulated before Egg Venture was emulated, so that must have had a bit of a following. I mean, I'm not really sure why, but trying to give him credit somewhere. Oh, the exit's not even open. I definitely prefer the home versions of Boulder Dash. One thing I miss about Boulder Dash with this version is you can't run off the screen, and while you know people might say that slow scrolling that doesn't keep up with you is not a positive feature of the game, it's something I always associate with Boulder Dash. It's like Sonic, where you're running off the screen. It makes you seem much faster than you are. And the classic versions have that. This doesn't. No. I've not played the C62 or Boulder Dash actually. So I don't know. So there's a problem. I didn't go with much C64 stuff, and the C64 soft lists in MAME are lacking quite a lot of games. I wanted to look at Quick Snacks because the C64 version of that is quite different to the other versions, but that's not in the soft list. Mega Apocalypse isn't in the C64 soft list, so the C64 soft lists need a bit of work. Why am I playing this? This is Uncle Pooh. It existed. It's a real game. And I suppose it is a maze game. In fact, the maze aspect of it is quite prominent. Let's Uncle Pooh. This feels like it has to be a hack of something, but I really don't know. But yeah, it's a sort of infinite runner, but also a maze game, but not infinite because I'm about to say infinite runner. It feels auto-scroller. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Auto-scroller, not infinite runner. Where you collect the money bags to clear off the paths through the maze. You can try and get things, but there's a risk element involved in trying to pick up certain things. But yeah, you've got to look at which way you're going. So there's actually a solid game here. If you ignore the fact that it's called Uncle Pooh, and I've messed this up, haven't I? Oh no, you can shoot those, sorry. I forgot you can shoot them. Can I get the diamond? No, I can't get the diamond, can I? Nope. So yeah, despite the title and the theme, there's actually a pretty solid game going on here. I'd just love to know if it's actually a hack of something. Even if it's an elaborate hack that's added scrolling in. But there are a bunch of games like this. Not like this, but that seem to be somewhat related to this. Where we don't know the real manufacturer on similar types of hardware. So I think it must have been some company doing them without ever putting a real name on. This is credited to Diatec or something like that, but there's no record of anything else credited to them as far as I know, and other very similar games have different credits, so I almost feel like it's a sort of fake credit. But yes. There's definitely more to Uncle Pooh than you might imagine. There we go. But yeah, again, this to me is more of a maze game than Pac-Man. Because you've got the key gameplay here is navigating the level. You've got to look at what's coming up and see what path you're going to take. See if you want a chance trying to get the the diamond before there's no time to get the diamond. If you can navigate it. So I've just about got that one. Now can I get back out of here? And the whole thing is about navigating this maze and collecting things and not getting caught. So to me, yeah, this is more of a maze game than Pac-Man. Of course, opinions may differ. Tutankhamun, yes, I have Tutankhamun on my list of games to potentially look at. So yeah, there we go. That was a brief look at Uncle Pooh. I mean, I can enter my name as Pooh. Because, I've messed up entering my name as Pooh. I just have to PNB instead. SOS, TNT, who knows? The game's better than the artwork, pardon me. Now, what was I going to look at next? I've almost lost my train of thought. There's two very good Namco games I could look at. Uncle Pooh is a lot of fun. It's a bizarre game. Why would you call it Uncle Pooh? You've programmed a perfectly good game. You could have gone with any theme and you call it Uncle Pooh. Okay. I'm just looking through my list. I had something in mind a minute ago that I have completely lost. I don't know why it was called Tutankhamun, not Tutankhamun. There are many questions like that. Oh, I know what I was going to play next. Not one I'm good at. Now, somebody did write a script that could play this game forever and found out lots of interesting things about it, like there are a limit to the number of turns you can have and it will just automatically win the level if you make a certain number of turns, but that's kind of difficult to do. But this is a maze game, and that image is almost on par with the Mr. Pooh one, I have to say, but this game is a lot more famous. Nibbler does not stop at corners. Nibbler grows longer when it eats. Time decreases faster when Nibbler does not eat. Okay. So, yeah, it's Snake in a maze. And again, why do I think this is more of a maze game than Pac-Man? Because you have to... Well, you're creating the maze as you go, and look, if you don't consider it, you end up eating your own tail, and that's bad. Now this game is kind of controversial in terms of emulation history, because a lot of people remember it having music. And if you use the sound ROM from the other game on the same hardware, you do get music. And it's possible a lot of boards were converted versions of that game and left the music chip on. But apparently officially it's not meant to have music. But, you know, you do have to consider the maze here a lot more than you do in Pac-Man. It's to do with the resolution, is it? Would you like to elaborate on why it's to do with the resolution? Oh dear. I'm quite bad at Nibbler. I will say that much. I should have downloaded that the script somebody wrote to play the game for me and pretend to be the world champion at Nibbler, but again, that would have required preparation and thinking ahead of the stream that I did not do. I'll have to do that another time because those scripts are actually fascinating. I won't really say they're AI scripts because they're a very strict set of rules. Rather than actually studying the maze and trying to complete the maze, it just follows a set of rules. But, you know, it's not looking at the screen, it's looking at memory as far as I know. I don't know, it depends what you consider AI and what you don't, but they're still fascinating scripts, I would say. It's a shame I didn't... Is it true it doesn't use sprites? This. Well, that's a tire map, and that's a tire map. So, yeah, I don't think this uses sprites. Oops. I mean, you don't need sprites, really, do you? It kind of works without them. It's a very fast-paced game. Any kind of input lag on this one will... really ruin your day. You need instant responses, really. Yes, definitely a maze game. Not the only snake-like game on my list either. We'll see if I get to the other one. Congratulations on your high score. There you go. You see, this was Nibbler anyway. I'm not going to play another game of Nibbler because... there's not much else to see about it, really, is there, with it? It's GD. I have different initials for every game. But yeah, that was Nibbler, one I wanted to look at. Willow Garden on the C64. Is that a maze game, Thomas? I mean, I'm not going to fire it up immediately. I'm noting it down in my list. I really do need to try some C64 stuff, but it becomes quite tricky. Running around in a Japanese maze-like garden. Icky. AKA Farmer's Rebellion. Insert coin with a K. That gets changed to a C. Now this is kind of Rally X-like, except it's not. Oh, and it's horizontal. There we go. So, okay. Willow pattern. Okay. Anyway, this has you running around in a very Japanese-like maze. I mean, the first levels aren't very mazy, and it's sort of fields more so than anything. But you know, you're running around in a farmer's field and you're collecting the things. You've got a map just like Rally X, although on these first levels there's not really much in the way of walls, which to me initially made me think it's not a maze game. There are these trees here. You know, you've got your bare minimum of a few walls. But later levels do start to add more obstacles, more walls. So to me, this is almost a game that evolves into a maze game after not starting off as one. This was also listed as maze game, which is why I put it on the list, because I was thinking that's not a maze game. I played that. That's nothing like a maze game. So okay. Okay, I'll note down Willow Pattern instead. So, yes, this is one of those rare games by Sun. I don't know if the Farmers Rebellion English version is official or some unofficial conversion, but I'm playing the Japanese version anyway. Now, one thing I don't like about this is you have to be right at the edge of the screen to scroll it, which means you have no idea what you're walking into. But luckily, it doesn't seem to matter too often. Sega Ninja, you don't have full control over the scrolling there, do you? I seem to recall Sega Ninja's scrolls in one direction, unless I'm... See here, you've got more of a set of walls to navigate, little trees making it more of a maze at this point. But it's very Rally X-like, so if Rally X is a maze game, and Rally X is a maze game, then this has elements of that. But maybe not enough walls? I mean, it's a difficult one for me to decide. There's more walls again here, you see. It's getting more maze-like. Yeah, maybe only the theme. I mean, I don't recall Sega Ninja playing like that. Although, you do have your ninjas there, don't you? So yeah, hiding in the bushes, throwing their ninja stars at me. Well, I throw boomerangs. Is it boomerangs? No, they're not boomerangs, are they? They look boomerangy, but they're not boomerangs. I think people used to think this was a boomerang game, but they're not boomerangs. Yeah. Samurai standing still and throwing swords. I guess it's just very period Japan, isn't it? Well, you didn't stand still. You you jumped onto the screen and jumped off very quick. You see, now it's very maze-like. You've got all these buildings in the way, and you have to navigate them all. So it has developed into a maze, although the maze is a city. So now we're getting back to the whole point that was being made earlier. The whole thing that was being said earlier about RPGs. Kadash is Kadash a maze? I mean, it's sort of a location with buildings, and it's a set of screens. Do they make up a maze? You can hide in things. Is a layout of screens a maze, or does it have to be scrolling? Are Wizard's Lair and Attic Attack maze games? Is Starquake a maze game? These are Spectrum games, by the way. Starquake, Attic Attack, Wizard's Lair. Very good ones too. But probably not ones I'll be playing on this stream. Yeah, Willow Pattern. Oh, Willow Pattern was Samurais. This is Samurais. Okay. Lots of Samurais standing still and throwing things. Yeah, this is icky. Like I say, it was also, there's a set called Farmers Rebellion for it, which I'll just quickly. Farmer. So if now it's called Farmers Rebellion, it's just got little subtitles. It says Farmers Rebellion. And a kind of ugly replacement there. I mean, this kind of looks bootleggy to me. It's got the story's missing as well, and yeah, not much reason for me to play that one, that clone. So let's have a look at something a bit different again. Steel Force. Now this game really, really, really wants to be Alien Breed. It's a Italian game, Spanish game, I'm not sure. Actually, Eco Games Spain, though. I think Eco Games in Spain developed it, and it was distributed by Electronic Devices in Italy. But yeah, let's skip that because it's not the most pleasant sounding music. But so, in fact, you've got to put up with this rather gritty music. Now, this is clearly a shooter, but it doesn't direct you exactly where to go. There's things on the floor that say exit, which you know you can follow to get to the exit. But there's paths off to the side. An exit's up there, but I can go down here to get some ammo and other stuff. No. And there's different routes, so let's actually head to the exit. But a lot of people don't seem to be aware of this one, even if they're aware of Alien Breed, and clearly this wants to be Alien Breed. It's not as good as Alien Breed. Very sticky controls at times. It's a shame that Alien Breed didn't get a proper arcade version, actually. I think Alien Breed is perfect for an arcade game in terms of even the difficulty. It's known for being a really difficult game on the Amiga. Okay, don't crush me. You've got your falling platforms there, so you have to be careful. But you can see you are following some arrows, but the whole layout is quite mazy to me here. So, how does the chat feel about this one? Is this maze or not maze? Is this too action-based to be a maze game, or? I think it's these long corridors that do it for me as well, and the multiple choices of route. That's the other thing. When is it a maze and when is it just a level? What's the difference? Yeah, it's a good game. It gets quite tough. I mean, it's not the best executed, but it's one I emulated many years ago, and it's one that's a lot more memorable than a lot of other ones I emulated. So you've got that bit of a boss fight. Can maze games have boss fights? I mean, that's another question to ask. I'm going to go yes, because I can think of at least one Pac-Man game that's got a boss fight. There we go. Yeah, Smash TV, that's I mean, Smash TV, the individual stages aren't mazes, are they? But the overall structure, as you go from room to room, is kind of maze-like. And one I covered in another stream with the sound fix, Rye Maze, that's both mazes in terms of level structure and an overall maze in terms of the way the levels are laid out. Each level, there's 4 doors on each level to take you to different places. So that's like mazes within a maze, that one. I might have to have another look at that. I'm trying to cover games I've not necessarily already covered. But yeah. The main problem with this is the sound is really quite nasty. It's very low quality, scratchy OKA samples. Unfortunately, you tended to get that with budget Spanish and Italian games. They didn't spend much on the sound hardware or recording the sounds. I guess because they knew most arcade cabinets were just cheap, old, beat-up things with terrible speakers, and they didn't want to waste budget on it. Yeah. Don't zap me. Another boss fight. Dung Beetle Megabug. That is on my list actually. I really I find it an interesting concept because the restricted view on it makes it feel more mazy because you can't really see everything. Even though you can see everything, you can't, it blocks your immediate view. I might put that one on a bit actually. It's a good one to mention because it's. I think it's on this main list. It might be on my. I was gonna play it on the M-Game stream, but I don't think I ever got round to it. And there's quite a few of these that I didn't play on the M-Game stream because I had in the back of my mind that I was going to do this. But anyway, this is Steel Force. I don't want to spend too long on it. You do end up with some escape before the timer runs out things as well, and I mean it's a playable mazy alien storm, not alien storm, alien breed type thing. Now, did I copy the mega bug I was going to use onto here? Hold on. M Games. Yeah, here we go. Now, I don't know if this is all configured right, so if it's not, I apologise. This is the Coco 3 version of Megabug, also known as Dung Beetles, as mentioned. Okay, so you've got your overall maze, and it is more of a mazy maze anyway, a bit like the earlier labyrinth style ones, the snail maze we were looking at. But then you've got this big box of zoomed in graphics around where you are, which means you can't see what's close, just outside of that view. Even though you can see the overall maze and you can see what's immediately next to you, you can't see the little bit outside of that area, which makes it feel really claustrophobic because you're having to try and work out where things are going to be, but you don't know they're going to be upon you until they're really close. See, I had no idea that one was there. And again, this concept, as far as I know, was never used as an arcade game, but it really it adds another level of intensity to the way these Pac-Man games play. Because you just don't know. It's obviously a very big maze. It's such a simple little technique they've done, and you can see why it was popular. And yeah, they eat the path you're leading down to, because they are dung beetles. And there's not much more to say about it. This is the game. This is what it does. This is the unique little twist it had. But it was popular enough to get ports to several different platforms. This is the Coco 3 version. It's quite well known on the Apple platforms, I believe. Maybe more so than the Coco. But yeah, I do like this one. So I don't want to go there. There's lots of bugs crawling around too. You've not got anything fancy like power pellets. So it's definitely not Pac-Man, but it's still eat the dots in a maze. Now they're not too aggressive on this stage, so you're not going to worry about them too much. Now I can quite happily follow this one. Though I don't want to get myself stuck anywhere, which might happen. No, I thought that might happen. Yeah, Bob Bishop for the Apple II. But this is a decent port. I mean, I survived for 2 minutes 34 and covered that much of the maze. But say the Coco version works pretty well. I should really try some of the Apple drivers a bit more, especially after the all the fixes and improvements in the latest version. but I'll need to plan that a bit in advance. This is the version I was a bit more familiar with, so it's the one I fired up. But yeah, nice little game. And definitely a maze game. I can't say it's not. So, yes. What else have we got on here? Okay. Tempted to look at one I looked at already. Yeah, why don't I? Why don't I look at that one again? Okay, I'll look at something similar. PC Engine time. Squeak. Now, probably more familiar with this on home, other home platforms, the home computers, the Amiga, the CPC. Is it a maze game? It's a French game from Infogrames, Lovisol. So, now, if you played Moustache Boy in the arcades, that is very, very similar to this. Now, the whole point is you've got to turn all the colours, all the tiles, pink from blue. But the levels, are they mazes? They have different elements. They've got the arrows there that push you in one direction. Maybe there aren't quite enough walls, but then again, this is still at early stages. Don't run into static enemies. Obviously, there were quite a lot of Squeak games on the other platforms. I think this is the only one on the PC Engine. But they were... Okay, this is actually an easy game. I'm just doing really badly at it. You can fire as well, which I've not been doing. That kind of helps as well. You can clear out the enemies. It's a little bit slidey. Shall we try this again? Now, I got to about level 5 when I was warming up earlier and testing this out and seeing if I wanted to play it or not, without losing any lives. Not sure what's happened. Got a little level password. Now, while I would think of Moustache Boy as a maze game, for some reason this one may be less so, even though they're clearly almost the same game. And I will put Moustache Boy on shortly. You've got your ice blocks there, you've got your shortcut there. So mazes have shortcuts, yeah. Maze like feature. You can go against the arrows, but you're much slower. But I don't know. To me, yeah, this probably doesn't quite count as a maze game, at least not in the early stages. But then if it doesn't count as a maze game, what does it count as? That's the other question I have to ask. I mean, it's got maze-like elements. So boom. Disappearing tiles. Let's go for the shortcut. Yeah, come and get me, come and get me, come and get me. Yeah, I deserve a game over there. Squeak. Right, I say I did play Moustache Boy before, but Moustache Boy. Now this has jumping that the other didn't. Don't think it has shooting though. I think, as main fan, I just saw your comment about Megabug. I think the idea is it gives it a unique look. I mean, they could have just zoomed in the whole view, but then that would just be a zoomed in Pac-Man style game. The idea is you can see parts of the maze, but not all the maze. I mean, that's sort of what they were going for with it. But now, while this is very like Squeak, and you're just changing the colours of tiles, there are more walls here, more structure. This feels more maze-like, at least to me. You can't really deny it is the same game concept, just with different level design, really, and jumping, not firing, and a different pace. It's a bit slower paced. Maybe that's something that's important for a maze game: pace. Maybe if it's too fast, it's not a maze game. Because maze game maybe implies more strategy, more thinking, a slower paced game. But then we were talking about, you know, the taxi game that was quite fast paced. But it is something that when I was thinking about this and thinking about Squeak, I was thinking, apart from the fact this has got more walls, why does this feel more maze-like? I think it might be pace. As I mean, you're probably getting the idea by now why I say that it makes absolutely no sense for us as developers to try and categorise these things, because there are just so many different opinions and so many what counts as what elements matter. So we leave that up to people externally, say the catver.ini maintainers and the like, to come up with their own categorisations and save us from having to do that. Because you know, there'd just be constant arguments, I think, if it was tried to do it in an official capacity. Jumping like in Pac-Mania. Yeah, I don't like the jumping in Pac-Mania. I think it ruins the Pac-Man concept. Especially, again, it's why it contributes to why the early levels in Pac-Mania feel so slow-paced, because there's no challenge, you just jump over everything. It should have started with the jumping ghosts on the first level. At least then, you know, the first levels would have a point. Yeah, this doesn't have an exit, it's just a case of collecting all the tiles. So it would be very easy for them to have added an exit. But that would just be something extra to look for at the end. Yeah, I'm not playing this well. Anyway, I've played this one on stream before. It's a popular game, actually. It's Moustache Boy. Quite an odd title. I don't know how they decided they were going to call it Moustache Boy and come up with that theme, but they did. Right. Okay. I've played this one on another stream too. This is the Casio PV2000, which apparently doesn't work, but does as far as I can tell. This is Mr. Pac-Man, which is basically Super Pac-Man. I'm not entirely sure why it's called Mr. Pac-Man, not Super Pac-Man, but, you know. It's a nice version of Super Pac-Man. It's got that home computer charm to it. I'm not sure what I think of Super Pac-Man as a game in general. It definitely was quite creative. If they were trying to do something different with the idea. Yeah, I don't know why the PV2000 is marked as not working, because every bit of software I tried does seem to work. But maybe I'm just missing something important that I'm unaware of. But yeah, these are Casio computers from back in the day. Speaking of Casio, apparently the Loopy will be emulated very soon. Phil Bennett managed to extract the internal BIOS ROM from the Loopy, so all your sticker printing needs will soon be met. Well, maybe, I don't know if it'll print stickers, but yeah, I've been looking forward to Loopy emulation for a while. Actually, I've been considering for many years how to extract that internal ROM, so I'm kind of glad that Phil managed to do it, because it saves me thinking about it anymore. And I don't think it was just a cruel April Fool's joke. I think he has genuinely extracted it. Yeah, the thing is, there are a lot of extra categories in there now, but it's just sometimes specific to one game. I did notice that there's like, especially with the gambling ones, there's some very specific categories they've added, which makes no sense. But you do have things, there are things clearly in the wrong place too, which I don't think there's an easy process for submitting fixes, but like let's say there's an alligator hunt set in maze games, and it's not a maze game. Other than that, there are some just questionable choices. Like you said, maybe historical reasons. Again, this is what I mean. It's not something you want to do on an official capacity in MAME. Yeah, I don't think the Casio's computers were really popular outside of Japan. I don't think they were even released outside of Japan for the most part. They weren't actually too bad. There wasn't much software for any of them. But the ports that are on them are actually decent ports. They're enjoyable. I mean, to me, this is a really good implementation of Super Pac-Man. I maybe even prefer this over the original arcade. It's just got that. It's got that home computer charm to it, and it's fast and smooth. And is it more of a maze game than the original Pac-Man? Does the added element of these keys you've got to unlock doors make it more mazy? That's also something I was thinking with this one. You know, you're unlocking area, you're opening doors. We'll come to Gauntlet in a bit, and one of the reasons Gauntlet feels mazy is the choices you have to make. Yeah, this is a very good port of the game. And probably not one many people play. I don't think the PV2000 driver is the most popular one for anybody to be running. I wonder what a turbocharged version of this would be like. We had to look at that championship edition Pac-Man Demake earlier, but if they could do that style with these game mechanics, I think that would be a fascinating little project for somebody. An ever-expanding maze with the keys and doors and... Hey Mitchell, how you doing? Sorry if I've not said hi to anybody. I just tend to notice the actual comments and just respond to them. But yeah, hi to everybody who's joined in chat, and thank you for joining. And I should be a good streamer and politely shout everybody out as they join. But I have not been today. I usually remember to do that. Good to hear it, and say thank you for joining. I've left a boot over there. Didn't know where I'd left the old boot. So this game grows on you too. At first, I really didn't like what they've done, but you have to give Namco credit for innovating on the Pac-Man concept. They couldn't have just kept churning out slight variants on Pac-Man. So, actually having new gameplay elements while still being very recognisable as Pac-Man, I think it's a really good move. And again, it's something Namco were good at. Thomas, your message has been censored. I will put it through in a minute, because I think we've seen enough of that. I don't know. I'm assuming YouTube thinks it's spam, but you know, it's what everybody says, isn't it? Also, like and subscribe, and don't forget to click that bell. I'm not too bothered if you want to do that. If you don't, you don't. If you find the video and watch it, that's good enough for me, although it does help if people do subscribe. Anyway, where shall we go now? You know what? I mentioned Namco. I think we should look at some Namco because there are some good Namcos. There we go. Tinkle Pit, 1993. Yeah, people have said it so often it probably has now ended up in the spam filters. What do we think of Tinkle Pit? Now, apparently these green coloured borders are actually an error and they should be black, and Cam never went back and fixed it after changing it. I get that there's a background colour register, but I don't think the background colour register should apply to outside of the clipping area. It's definitely wrong. I've seen original colour footage that shows it to be wrong, and it needs fixing. But anyway, this is Tinkle Pit. The story's all in very Japanese story. Do we care about the story? Probably not. Now, one of the things to note about this is it's full of cameos from other Namco games. You've got your Dig Dug character there, for example. A pit of pee. Well, apparently PV2000 is still not working, but to me, everything I've ever tried on it works, so I think it could be promoted. Now this one, you hold down the button and it extends the rope, and then the rope comes back on you and you kill everything that's behind you. This is a very good game, actually. This is one of my favourites that I would consider to be a game set in a maze. I mean, this is the debate we've had. This is no more of a maze game than Pac-Man is, really. They get trapped in corners. So yeah, the ball. Say if you hold down the button, you extend the rope, and then it comes back on you. That's the concept for this game. There's obviously a lot of extra little details, like in every Namco game. It's a bit flickery there. I don't know why it flickers as it expands there. Probably timing bugs. I mean, the problem with a lot of these later Namco drivers is most of them need a fair bit of work. It's a shame, but they've kind of been neglected for, you know, the best part of 15 years. And it shows that they're older main drivers at this point. The quality control isn't quite there the same as on more modern drivers, the ones that have had more recent attention. I'm sure there are things here. Now, can I get all these in one and do a big chain? There we go. Oh, I didn't get them all. Get you two. Yep. Yeah, no, so I think Namco were probably kings of maze game, coming from Pac-Man. I guess that makes sense. But they do have a variety of games that are quite mazy, and this is certainly one of them. More Dig Dug characters, you see. Now, I was even thinking things like Prop Cycle, which is obviously not strictly a maze game, but the level design that you're going through on the bike is quite mazy. Google Chrome showed me live message popped up. I guess that's what happens when you subscribe and have push notifications or something. I'm not really sure. I'm one of those people that tends to run half of my internet stuff with scripts disabled and push notifications disabled, and probably a terrible person. But I do that mostly for security. So I don't get lots of pop-ups. Not even things I would actually want to pop up. Yeah, those transitions are a bit jumpy. Not sure what's going on there. Probably always been like that. Because like I say, these Namco drivers, they're kind of old. Very colourful. Great music, as you expect from Namco. Everything just works together, and there are quite a few other Namco games on this list that I really do need to play at some point, either today or if I do. They even leave like in Dig Dug. You get a little bye-bye and he leaves. So we're on 2 hours. Probably another hour or so worth of games this time, and then I have to discuss, well, think about my plans and discuss if people want to see another stream like this. I'll probably put it out on, say, Twitter, and see if people would like me to cover the rest of the Maze games in future streams, or continue talking about this. Yeah, there's a mix of element. I'm not seeing as much Bomberman, but definitely Namco have put their own elements in from games they've done themselves. And you'll see that throughout the game. The later levels have even more cameos from Namco characters. There's probably a lot more strategy to it than I'm showing as well. As there always is in Namco games. There's always different ways to finish the levels. But yeah. Creative high score entry. That's the Rolling Thunder character, isn't it? Running across the bottom there. Ah, the icons. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, it's this is one of those games that I would say absolutely go and play it, and play through quite a few more stages than I've just played there, because there's a lot of content, and it's just one of the better ones of the 90s Namco games to me. Well presented, as I said before, and lots of fun. It's not the only Namco game I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at another Namco game almost straight away. This one is vertical, I think. Oh no, it's horizontal. Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? I don't know. It's vertical. Okay, vertical. I always forget with these things. Rompers. This one's actually got a bomb in the title, so I don't know. Now, this is a destructible maze game, which is sort of another subgenre of mazes, I guess. Just looks like a load of dominoes, doesn't it? You have to crush the enemies under the maze that you're pushing over. The animation here is really good. I love the so much detail in it. This is Namco System 1 hardware, so it's much older. And I'm completely out of practice on it, as you can see, because this is the first level, and this isn't difficult. Get all the keys. And finish the level that way. So, this is the same type of hardware that things like Splatterhouse and Pac-Mania are on. But, personally, I think this sums up what Namco was all about. More so than even those games. I mean, Pac-Mania, like I said, I know people like it, and it was an attempt to innovate, but I liked it when they kept it more simpler like this. It feels more traditional. I did play Pac-Mania a little bit and enjoyed it more than I had before. Now, yeah, there's quite a few like this. Quality Namco games. Can't push that over because there's something blocking it, you see. So you do have to be mindful of the layout, which is, and don't get crushed. But destructible maze games. I'm going to play another credit this. Pengo. Pengo has a maze, but it is a maze that you can entirely destroy. So I sort of count Pengo as a destructible maze game too. You get more bonuses from crushing things. Oh. That knocked over the wall. I got crushed. Again, not many people seem to talk about this. And don't stand there, you get crushed. In fact, best thing to do is stand right in the middle for a little bit. Or not. So it gets a little bit puzzly now. And that's another genre I'm not sure fits with maze games. Puzznik is in catver as a maze game. I can't see Puzznik as a maze game. It's also in there as mature because obviously it's got a dip switch to enable lots of adult content. Should I play another credit this? I think I should. I've not really demonstrated it very well, have I? I keep making the same mistakes too, which is very, very silly of me. Concentration. Not standing in the wrong place. There we go. Easy when you actually concentrate. Oh. Can't push that over because there's something in the way. Got to go all the way around. In fact, see, it gets mazy. You've got to go all the way around to get to places. And don't get run over. It does get tough. I mean, it's easier than I'm making it look. I'm making it look really tough, but that's lack of concentration. That's me looking at the chat messages every 30 seconds and dying. There you go. Once you know how to play the level, it's not so bad, is it? Yeah, a lot of these Namco games do get quite tough after a while. This is no exception. I think this is one of those that's memorable because there are no other games with this mechanic. I'm not aware of any games that rip this off entirely. So if you want to play a game that plays like this in MAME, then this is the only one you can play. And those are always games that stand out. Those are always the games that I think are worth being on best of must play lists. Are ones where there isn't anything else like it. If you don't play it, you're going to miss out on the experience of this gameplay twist. I don't know, probably another Namco game. Then again, it's just a circusy type thing, isn't it? Maybe it's a more generic thing. Got trapped. I got trapped. There's a time limit at the bottom too. That's pretty. Okay, that's rompers anyway. This is another good fun Namco one. Sega did a maze game too. I need to change the view. Hold on. Now, Sega were apparently very apologetic for this game. It is called I'm Sorry. It's also quite political. You've got a number of famous figures moving about the maze. I'm sure you can name one or two of them. Now, if you want to read up on the whole politics and everything else behind it, then I will let you do that in your own time. But it is, don't know how to play it, unfortunately. Right, just punch it there. Okay. But again, it's a simple, what you would consider to be an arcade maze game, just with a slight touch of comedy in the characters. That it was one of those I'm really surprised got localized outside of Japan, because most of the characters will be meaningless to anybody outside of Japan, but I guess Sega just felt it was a strong enough game to sell on the basis of the game itself. Without having to change it. Although, yeah, if you fail, you have to restart the whole stage again. It's one of those. So, practice until you get good. It is a good art style, memorable art style, I would say. There aren't many games that look like this, so... In fact, Sega didn't do many maze games. I mean, this is Coreland. Well, Sega and Coreland did work together on a lot of things. I've got to go in. There we go. And Coreland became Bampress. Did the Bampress do stuff in the end, didn't they? Am I thinking? Is that correct? Am I thinking of somebody else? I can't remember off the top of my head. So, failed. Very long names. Same hardware as My Hero, isn't it? It's a System 1 game. So it's the same sound chips, so two pair of SN76489As. So yeah, I get maybe it's the same composers. I don't know. I think is My Hero another Coreland one? Definitely the same hardware type. Pardon me. Why am I trying to punch the bevel? That doesn't work. Odd use of dithering as the art style here. I mean, the Japanese games you're more used to seeing solid colours, whereas this, you know, the ground patterns here are made of alternating colours and the water. It's not the most Japanese looking in that sense, although in other senses it's very, very Japanese looking. So I'm playing it really, really badly. I can't remember which keys jump and which keys punch, but yeah, I'm going to fail on this. Alright, this was I'm Sorry, and I am very, very sorry for how badly I played I'm Sorry. But not my best demonstration of gameplay, that. Yeah. Japanese computers, yeah. It's more something you see on the Amiga, the dithering techniques. I mean, I tend to think of dithering more when it's a variable pattern, not just checkerboard like that, but it is still a dithering pattern, yes. That is true. But I associate it more with the Amiga, where you tended to be limited to sort of 16 colours, 32 if you're pushing it. So you got a lot of them, and there were all sorts of different dithering modes. All the paint programs had different specially named dithering modes, and your standard deluxe paint one is quite easy to identify, but all the other packages start doing more advanced techniques to try and do the same thing. I don't. To me, if I'm going to use the term dithering, I tend to use it when it's more than just a checkerboard pattern, but yeah, it is still the correct term there, so maybe I should just use it there. Anyway, money. It's quite a quiet one, this one, actually, so let me turn the volume up a bit. how much. Yeah, I have seen it in the Japanese computer games, so as you say. Right, this is Money Money Zachariah game.
You can go and look for the money.
You can go and look for the money. I mean, it's... yeah, I got cornered. So it's just Pac-Man-like game with a weird perspective that's neither not isometric but angled. No, I think you can. Yeah, if you've got the power up, just like Pac-Man, you can run into things. Yeah, I think it would be nice if the sliders could actually increase the volume, because there are so many games, especially now the mixing levels have been dropped on so many of them, that are just too quiet. And while, yeah, you want that sometimes if you're streaming stuff, it is annoying because it just means I keep having to go over to OBS and increasing the volume. This is another one of those games where I think half the novelty was the speech. It's not the most addictive or interesting game. So the different stages in it make it more interesting. I mean, this is just the first maze stage. It gets a bit different as you go along, so it does have that. And you just sort of stun enemies rather than getting rid of them. So that's different to Pac-Man, but also it's another where if you die, you have to start the whole maze over again. And that's annoying. I'm surprised actually, because I would have thought Japanese games where checkpoints are more common are more likely to have such mechanics. Again, I'm making this look much more difficult than it really is. It's not a difficult game. You have made much money. The hardware is TMS 5200. Is that the same as the Atari games? I can't remember. I can't remember what the Atari games had. I'm going to put Gauntlet on. Ooh. Turn the volume down a bit because Gauntlet's probably a normal level. Yeah. So let's have a look. Gauntlet. Yeah, same series. I mean, this is the 5220, 5200. I guess they're going to be close. I don't know exactly what the differences would be. But, okay.
Well done.
I'm sure you know Gauntlet.
100 points.
Now, this is one of those ones where I was a little bit disappointed because there are alternate language clones of this, like German ones, but the speech is always the same in them. It's not like Berserk and Wizard of War.
They need to open doors.
But, okay, you see, this one thing that makes this mazy is that's an exit, but it's not the exit I have to use.
Ooh.
So,
The warrior is about to die.
yes, you can buy lots of health. It's early microtransactions. So, exit to level 4, that's one of my options. Or I can even go up here and do more stuff. I can take the exit to level 8. So, that adds an extra element of what to the game. Beyond the fact it's just a maze because of the walls. So you can shoot through diagonals and stuff like that, which is... yes, I know. It's really letting me know that I don't know how to play the game, isn't it? I think that's one of the things that does irritate me a bit about this game. It's like, yeah, I know I'm doing badly. Don't keep reminding me.
Remember, don't shoot food.
I wanted to shoot the food. Don't have any keys to go up there, so I need to find a key again. Maze-like, you can't deny this is a maze game. In fact, it's probably one of the most famous arcade maze games outside of Pac-Man, and this is more of a genuine maze game because it has an entrance and it has an exit, and it has the maze changes. If you take too long, I believe the maze on these, all the walls vanish, so you can get to an exit. There's a little sort of fail-safe. Now, transporters, yeah.
Don't use the potion.
Yeah, I know. There's a key. Yeah, Gauntlet definitely is balanced more towards team play. I think another thing with Gauntlet is, if you really like it, Gauntlet 4 on the Mega Drive Genesis is definitely one to play, because that's one of the few Gauntlet games that it's got original content versus the arcades, but it's still very like the arcade games.
Warrior.
Oh, I thought. Yeah, Warrior Shot. I thought the exit was there, but the exit's there. Oh dear. It's a maze, you see. I'm lost. I'm going the wrong way. Gauntlet 4 is one of the few Mega Drive games to support the 4-player adapter as well. So you can play 4-player on it. I don't know if that works in MAME. It might do. But if the multi-tap works, maybe you can play Gauntlet 4 in MAME with 4 players. But it's also got original content beyond the arcade games. And I really didn't like Gauntlet 4 on the Mega Drive at first. I thought it was just felt like a really lazy game, but it's one of those where if you study what's actually there, it's much better. Where am I going? This is infinitely wrapping, isn't it? Can you tell I don't know how to play this game or where to go on this game? Where do I go on this game? How do I get to where I need to be? It doesn't support it. That's a shame. I thought it might do, but I wasn't entirely convinced. I appear to be lost. These are the same exits. I don't know. I've not heard anything good about the newer Gauntlets when anybody that's played them personally. So I don't know. I've not played it myself to comment.
Traps make walls disappear.
Okay. I don't know where I'm meant to be going on this level. Can somebody tell me? I should have gone to level 8, should I? Where are the traps to make the walls disappear? You know, it's told me all these things about how I'm not meant to play Gauntlet. It's not telling me how to actually get to where I want to go. That teleport will be useful. There we go. It's actually taken me to this time. I don't like how the teleporters work in this. But it's a maze game. It was the same on the Spectrum. The teleporters always annoy me on this game, actually. You have to go in from certain directions to actually teleport, and it does tell you how they work, but it's too easy to get them wrong. And now there's so many enemies here that I'm just fighting through crowds of enemies. No, I'm a bit surprised to hear you say that, because I have only heard bad things about that Gauntlet. But then again, I guess that's why you said unpopular opinion. So, I don't know. Can't comment on it. Yeah, the teleporter was annoying. I tried the teleporters multiple times. I thought, well, I must be doing it wrong. Must have been doing it right, and there was no other way to do it. And then obviously I wasn't doing it right.
Warrior now has extra fight power.
The voices are iconic. There we go. Level 8. Took far too long. Add coins any time for extra health. Yes, tell me about the microtrans. More teleporter madness. It taunts you with the voice. Yeah.
Warrior needs food badly.
Oh dear.
Welcome.
Back there. I don't really understand the teleporters in this at all. I mean, how does it determine what position you go to? What? So I can't just go that way. I can't go that way. Yeah, there are reasons I don't actually like Gauntlet that much. I mean, I know it's a classic game, but it does frustrate me. I enjoyed it on the Spectrum, but the arcade munches through your credits, and it tends to just annoy me, so I'm going to turn that off for now. No, it's not microtransactions in the Double Dragon 3 cents, but it's still insert coin for more life all the time. And I expect you to insert more coins, really. You're not going to complete it with just a coin. Hey, Red Hot Mackay, how are you doing? Hyper Pac-Man. I briefly looked at this the other day, but one of my favourites, really. Yeah, the volume's okay. So, this is Famicom's take on Pac-Man. This is before Namco had any Pac-Man games that look like this, I believe. So, there are secret passages. Lots of secrets in this game. And things you can shoot. I missed the extra life. I really should pick up the extra life, shouldn't I? There are ways to destroy blocks you don't think you can do. I can't do it now. But if you've got the power-ups and you position yourself correctly, there are lots of blocks you can destroy on these levels. But, you know, I'm not showing it off here. You can destroy practically every block on this level if you do it properly. I say the thing with Gauntlet is it is meant to be that game for multiple people to play together. Now we've got jumping like in Pac-Mania. I think maybe this is one of the reasons I don't like Pac-Mania is I played this game first and I just think this does it a lot better. This is a game Namco should have put out, or you know, instead of telling Famicom they weren't allowed to use the Pac-Man name, they should have just licensed this and put it to good use. The specs will show you where the secret walls are. Not too useful in this level. But I guess, you know, Namco probably aren't the type to decide, oh yeah, we're going to license a game from somebody who made a knockoff of our game. I guess if you use the blue ghosts being ones that you can kill, then yeah, I never really considered that because they're blue from the start, so you know you can't kill them. But if you're in Pac-Man mode and you're thinking, oh, it's blue, you can kill them, yeah, that's actually quite a cool twist, isn't it? I can't get to that from there. These levels are quite mazy in the sense a lot of them have got dead ends. And you've got these little secrets. Can I get that from there? Yes. There we go, you see. What I run out. If you time them in the right place, there's lots of stuff you can destroy and say secrets you can pick up. I didn't destroy the right blocks that time to get all the secrets, unfortunately. So now it just becomes a defensive helmet rather than a laser. Right, speed up. I think I might mess that up actually. I think you meant to wait until the ghosts are a bit further. A bit closer to where you are. Yeah, this level has a puzzle element to it that I forgot about. So now, I'm okay because I had the helmet, so you know, that protected me. Another one. Now, that reminds me. I could cover at least one Game & Watch game, couldn't I? Not helmet. But, yeah, okay, I might put Game & Watch on game next, actually. Why did I take that route? I don't know. I was thinking Squish or Bomb Sweeper. Squish is interesting in the dynamically generated maze sense, yes. Now I'm going to play this till the boss, because there is a boss, and that's kind of what I wanted to show. Although I think that'll be the next level. So I'm not going to play every level of Hyper Pac-Man, don't worry. I used to be good at this one too, but I think I'm just lazily playing it at the moment. Anyway, yes, the maze moves around you. I mean, it's similar to what Devil's World on the NES as well. That might be one to put on. In fact, maybe I should put that one on instead of Squish. Anyway, you've got a boss. It's Pac-Man with a boss. And kind of the sequel, New Hyperman, is more based around this shooting things mechanic. So you can kind of see where that came from. But there you go. There's different bosses, and that's just the first one. And the theme changes up a little bit, and kind of reminds me of Bubble Bobble with the level layouts. Like they've got a question mark here, and Bubble Bobble did a lot of that. But Bubble Bobble is not a maze game. Okay, that's actually before we go to Squish. It's Devil World, isn't it? I think. Yeah, just check I'm on the right set. J, I think. This the right one? Yeah, this is the one. Squish is very like this. This has got the same moving maze mechanics, which you will see shortly in Squish. What are you doing this again? Let's put me back there. So yeah, once you get the cross, you can get the dots. So when I put Squish on in a minute, you kind of see the similarity. And it's what a lot of people have compared Squish to in the past, is this one. Even though this looks very much like a sort of Bubble Bobble dragon with wings. Don't get squashed. Again, it's got that from Squish. If you're too near the edge of the screen, you will get squashed. Actually, I think this came before Squish, so there we go. So you can only eat the dots when you've got the crosses. Now in this level you have to get the books. Lots of religious symbols here, obviously, which is unusual for Nintendo. Because Nintendo, you know, had quite an anti-religious symbol policy. It's said that that's why Noah's Ark didn't get released in the US, the Konami game, because you know it's depicting various religious things, and the same reason some of those Bible adventures I think ended up being unlicensed is because Nintendo just wouldn't license them even if they wanted to. Yeah, it is surprising. It's a good game, but it's definitely not one you'd think of being a Nintendo game or on a Nintendo platform. It's even got devil in the title. The maze auto scrolls. You don't control the scrolling of the maze. That's the kind of thing I wanted to put across with this one, and it's definitely a maze. There we go. Bonus box. Yeah. But apparently that one was still released. So no religious symbols policy was clearly put to the side for that one. But yes, okay. This for window. Yes, Squish, the Game & Watch. Yeah, I'll leave it displaying like that. So, this is one of those that really didn't need to be a two-screen game. It's a complete waste of the top screen. But the top screen tells you the direction the maze is going to scroll. And the idea is just you don't get squashed. But it's sort of generating it on the fly. And I think sometimes it does generate somewhat unfair sections, but every game has slight flaws. There are two very different game modes on this one. I'm playing game A at the moment, which is just a simple case of surviving, really. Yeah, dynamically generated mazes. It's definitely a sub-genre of maze game. Ooh. And this one, the walls are your enemy. No other enemies, just you and the maze. Ah, okay, not Nintendo of Europe. That would make sense with the Noah's Ark thing then, and the Japanese one. So, oh, you see, the game didn't get released in the US, so I thought the game did get released in the US. I'm getting confused. That makes sense then, if it didn't get released in the US. And then in Europe and Japan. So yeah, I misread that. I thought you were saying you couldn't believe it did get released in the US. A lot of the US players do seem to have known about it or played it, so I guess they just got imported a lot. Because it's not really an unknown game. But strange that the policies would be so different between regions though. Sorry, my mistake for misreading that. Also, I think the game ended up being on quite a few of the bootleg cartridges, didn't it? So people are exposed to it that way. Yes, Squish. It's an alright little game, is Squish. It takes a while to get going. So, you know. It's not always going to be the most thrilling straight away. You can see the concept and it works. It's a bit like Devil World, the maze auto scrolls. You've got to not get crushed by it, but there's no nothing to pick up here. No dots to eat. So yeah, I mean, this kind of reminds me of some of the better Tiger ones as well. If you played the Gauntlet or Robin Hood Tiger one, which was the same game, that uses the elements to create a simple maze, and it ends up being a much more playable game. Whereas Nintendo didn't really do this type of thing that often. So there was one other where the elements are mostly used to make a maze, and I guess the Super Mario one too. You could consider that using simple elements to make level layouts. But that's not really a maze. Yeah, via Famicom. So I think that's what's confusing me with that one, because I know so many people in the US who have mentioned it and talked about it. I just thought it was released in the US. But yeah, it makes sense if it wasn't and the policies were different. But they could have rethemed it. I'm surprised it didn't get a reskin, because it's a solid game. Could have worked with Namco and actually put Pac-Man in there and have Pac-Man bringing things to the middle of the screen. But again, I think Namco wanted to more do their own Pac-Man games. Obviously, Miss Pac-Man being a big exception. Probably one of the most famous games was not their own game. There you go. That was Squish game A. Now game B, as you're trying to go to the corners, where these little people, these little squishy things live. The maze is still changing direction, so you've got to be careful of how you get to the corners. You know, you clear it, you get bonus points. So there's more of a challenge going on here. It's not just a case of surviving. And this is definitely adds something extra to the gameplay, because you have to take more risks. That's kind of similar to the bomb sweeper game, in the sense you're trying to get to somewhere on the edge. But, is it bomb sweeper? I'm thinking that I've got the title wrong. Yeah, that's Squish. Was it Minesweeper? Bomb sweeper. Yeah, so Bomb Sweeper. This is the other one that's quite maze-like. This one you're pushing parts of the maze around. Again, it's kind of a waste of the top screen. But I don't know. There we go, you see. Get from one place to the other. There's a start and there's an end. The end is where the bomb is. So now you've got to push things around in the maze to make your own path without trapping yourself or without, you know, making it impossible. So this is also, I would say, a maze game. And it's also a puzzly game. But not like Puzznik, which again is listed as a maze game, but to me isn't. This can be quite challenging. And look, there's Jack there, but not Bomb Jack, just Jack. I always wonder about that one, because it says Jack and he's got a bomb. Hey Bob, happy birthday Eddie Murphy. I was not aware of that either. How are you doing on Eddie Murphy's birthday? No, I've messed myself, but I can't let it on. Yes, Ladybug had gates. Ladybug had rotating gates, and this doesn't. I've trapped myself now. I just wanted to quickly look at these Game Watch ones. That was Minesweeper after Squish. Rotating gates, you say? Rotating gates. Let's go with Doridon on Ladybug hardware, of all things. By Falcon? Change to white. Every time you rotate a gate, it changes colour. So, you know. I wonder if this is in any way a hack of Ladybug, since it's the same hardware. Or if that's just pure coincidence. But is this a maze? I guess it's a maze, but the maze is more for the enemies than you, because you can spin anything around. The enemies cannot. So, not at this point anyway. Yeah, I think this is more fun than Ladybug, actually. I don't know. Did this get a home computer port? I'm pretty sure Ladybug did. I don't know if Dovachan did. Dovadon, not Dovachan. Dovadon. I'm not aware of it if it did, but that doesn't mean it didn't. I mean, Falcon as a developer, kind of obscure. Yeah, they changed colour the wrong way as well. It gets more complicated. They changed into ice creams, so that way, that way. Let everything spin around. What happened? Can we get this one? There we go. I mean, it's considered an original game, and it has original gameplay. Apparently by UPO license to Falcon. I don't know. Falcon... It's kind of one of those names you see on a bunch of bootlegs, like Crazy Kong. Also, Falcon seems to use the same logo at times as the Wing, the gambling company, so it's a bit confusing. As far as I know, it's an original game. Maybe we're missing an original set of it, because this is the parent set. And if it's meant to be a UPL game, then UPL aren't credited. But it's a good fun one. Though, yeah, you fail, you start again. It's one of those. And that's quite a fast enemy at this point. Yes, Mousetrap. I had a look at Mousetrap on a different stream. Probably one of the M streams. Oh no, was it one of the streams when I covered the other Mousetrap game? I have played Mousetrap and was quite impressed by the speech and the like on it. Yeah, the first stage is easy, it always changes to white. The other stages get tricky on this. But yeah, Mousetrap's actually really impressive. Again, I mentioned Exidy did a lot of games that would be considered maze games. And the Exidy stuff is mostly on maindev.org. Again, this has got little devils running around. Speaking of religious, symbols and the like. But this isn't a Nintendo platform, this is an arcade game. And we are actually approaching 3 hours now, so I'm going to have to take a look if there's any other ones I really want to cover in this stream. But yeah, I'm probably going to end up doing a part 2 of these, just to talk more about some of the other maze games. I've not even put Pengo on yet. Or Ladybug, but yeah, this seemed like a more fun one to demonstrate than Ladybug. Also kind of reminds me of Penguin Brothers with the rotating platforms, but they're not platforms in this case. And it's got a good mechanic where you're moving around the pegs. If you hold the direction you want to go, it will move towards that direction, then move you in that direction, so you can smoothly rotate around things. Happy is Happy. I mean, Happy uses the name Happy. I don't know anything else about Happy. Happy is not Hap. As far as I know, Happy is somebody else, but Happy is just somebody who decided to come along and fix some bugs. Access virus emulation. I do think maybe we should have a soft list of viruses for various platforms. I know some of the original discs in the Amiga soft list have viruses on them. And that's because they ship the viruses on them, and we have to document that. But I think an actual, for a historical reference, a collection of viruses and stuff would actually be quite interesting. Although I can imagine the nightmares it would cause some people. It's bad enough when they get false positives in their virus scanner. Never mind actual positives. Yeah, that was Doradon. Yes, Happy is happy. And we should be glad that Happy has contributed. Because they're pretty good contributions, aren't they? Especially after nobody really wanted to look properly at the driver for a long time. Don't blame them either. Right, I'm torn. I think this is horizontal. This is Maiku Hunter G. This was previously, in really early versions of MAME, this was known as Maze Hunter because back then I don't think there was anybody Japanese speaking involved to actually give the correct title. So it was known as Maze Hunter very early on. At least, I don't know, does it ever get put in MAME with that name? But anyway, it used to be known as Maze Hunter. The driver notes even still say it is. Most people will know this instead as the real Ghostbusters game, which is what it was adapted to outside of Japan. Although this first version is definitely less Ghostbusters. It's a case of the game being taken and turned into something new. Interestingly, these versions do have this rose scroll effect. Some of the Ghostbusters versions don't, but the attract modes are still synced as if they did, so some of the attract modes go out of sync. It's a bit silly. Now, for something that's nothing like Ghostbusters, for some reason as a kid, the Ghostbusters adaptation of this was probably the most Ghostbusters-like game to me. It's the one that felt right. But I don't know why. That was just based on the Spectrum versions. I think it's just because it's got all the monsters and everything. But yeah, I don't know if I'd consider this to be a maze game, though. It is technically, the translation is Maze Hunter, Labyrinth Hunter. But it's not that mazy. It's more just a run and gun with an overhead run and gun type thing, like Commando and the like, but with multiple direction scrolling. And I appear to be stuck. That's not good. Have I broken the game? Wow, this is great design. I got stuck on a death loop. Yeah, this was, say, it was rethemed as the real Ghostbusters, but it was never a Ghostbusters game in the first place. The Ghostbusters version obviously has quite a few changes to how the weapons work and things like that to make it fit more with the Ghostbusters theme. You've got things that seem more like the beams rather than just shots. But this is what it started out as. It's a bit rough around the edges. Not as rough around the edges as a similar game Konami did much later. So you can't shoot things if you're too close to them. That is a very strange mechanic. But to me it's not really a maze game even if it's called Maze Hunter. Yeah, similar to Super Mario. There are quite a lot of arcade games like that, to be fair. Quite a lot of games in general that got rethemed as something else. Super Mario is just maybe the most famous example. But yeah, I'll put Ghostbusters on in a minute. We are a bit over the 3-hour mark, but there's one. Got killed by the boss explosion. Yeah, this came first. I can see why they took this rose scroll effect out of some versions. It's very slow. Yeah, okay. Not to me, not a maze game. It's too direct. Now that is actually a set of a clone of the Ghostbusters game. It's one of those cases where I'm not sure it really is. This was significantly reworked. Yeah, so the Ghostbusters on the Genesis is a platforming game, isn't it? It's quite good. Obviously, this has got all the Ghostbusters music, all the Ghostbusters theming, the Ghostbusters background here. It's not quite the same game, is it? It is the same game to start off. It's the same game engine. Clearly the same game engine. But completely reworked. So you've got your beam attack now. It's got the Ghostbusters theme going on. So to me, this is probably one of those cases where we should probably just treat the what's currently the clone as something else, because it's not a simple re-release. It's a case of the game got completely redone. Just make it looks more like an urban environment too. And this was an absolute favourite on the Spectrum growing up. Again, it's still not a maze game. But bendy lasers, you know. Who doesn't love bendy lasers? Free Raiden 2 bendy lasers. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the compile stuff. I like some of the puzzle stuff, but the shooters, I know people love them, but they never appeal to me that much. Yeah, I would probably make the Japanese game not a clone of this. It's too different. It might start off as the same thing, but yeah. Anyway, they're not maze games. But yeah, I like that game. I'm not going to play it because to me, not maze. Right, we are at 3 hours 5 minutes. There's definitely enough for another stream. What am I going to play? Well, I think there's time to long play a game anyway. Let's long play Shackled. So, this is a gauntlet-y type game. I don't know if it's a maze game. It's got maze-like levels. It's got secrets, as you will shortly see. I've got a key. Oh look, there's a secret wall. There's a secret passage. Go here. Go through here. Go through here. There we go. Just enough time on this stream, I think, to do this. And there you go. I completed the game. It's a very silly secret, that, isn't it? I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they left that in there, but yeah. Full staff roll, full game complete, without really doing anything. And that is your coin. Yeah, that is your coin gone. Yeah. You have to even wait out the credits, you know. You can't skip over the credits. It treats it as if you properly completed the game. Now the Japanese version doesn't do that. The Japanese version the Japanese version does not let you go down there. The Japanese version was called Braywood. It's got a very. You see, if I do that, try and do that in the Japanese version. Was that a personal best? I don't know. I think I've done it more quickly than that. I got crap to the end. You see, you can get the key on this one, but there's no passage down here. I don't know if there's a different secret for it, but you can't just go out and complete the game in 30 seconds in this version. But yeah, this is a gauntlet-y, mazy type thing. Maybe a bit heavier on the shooting than the maze. But yeah. Anyway, I can't speedrun the Japanese version. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to leave the rest for another stream now. So, as always, thanks to everybody who has joined in. It's always good to have a chat, and everybody chatting in the chat with each other too, which is always good. So yes, I've even noticed like there's a few people here that I've forgotten to say hello to again. I mean, Balrog's here, David. Thor, hey Thor, and yeah, there's quite a few names. Sorry for not announcing everybody as they came in. Yeah, the Pengo set with the different music. I think there was a copyright issue for Sega when it wasn't, so it got redone. I'll look at Pengo another time, and I'll probably cover that and show the different sets on it, because I think a lot of people now have forgotten the different versions of different music. But that will be for another stream, because there's otherwise, yeah, this will end up being a 12-hour stream, and that's not really what I want to go for. I wanted to do a fairly early start, fairly early finish stream, and that's what we've got here. So I will catch you next stream, and thank you for everybody who has joined in, like I said, and that is where this will be ending.